friends. Thank you for joining me today on Notes to My Nervous System. We are joined by the incredible Sabrina Longley, a licensed clinical social worker based in Cary, North Carolina, and now in Asheville. Sabrina brings a wealth of expertise serving individuals for ages up, I can't talk today, individuals aged 15 and up, with a special focus on neurodivergent communication, boundaries, and affirming care for bioptic and LGBTQIA+. Thank you, Sabrina. Her approach centers on creating a space where you can feel truly seen, heard, and celebrated. A perspective rooted in her own lived experience, as she says, and this is not me saying that about her, a fat, black, neurodivergent, and queer therapist. Hi, friends. Welcome back to Notes to My Nervous System. I'm Erin, a mom, a therapist, and creator of the Mind Circuit app. And today, we are fortunate enough to have our licensed social worker, Sabrina Longley, join us today to talk about safety and relationships and our bodies and everything like that. So we like to just dive in here. And so I wanted to know where the difficulty comes up when you've been hurt in a relationship. Why is it so difficult sometimes for people to feel trust and safety when you're with a really safe, good person? And what are some of the things we can do to help ourselves and all that stuff?
I think that's such a great and important question that I don't know that we talk about a lot outside of like in the actual therapy room. And so, I think one of the big things that we have to bear in mind is like, for the most part, relationships that are really painful, we don't look at them as painful at the very beginning of them. Whether that is a child and a parent, right? So that a child doesn't recognize like, oh, what my parent is doing is harmful to me because like this is my
That's your norm.
caregiver in whatever way, and society says that all those things, like a friendship or a romantic relationship, right? Like those usually have some kind of start in a like positive neutral place, right? And then they develop in some way and it becomes harmful. And so I think this idea of
Important to
like,
recognize that, though, that it doesn't start out that way. It can be neutral. It
right,
can start out as good, which is why sometimes we can be confused. Thank you.
exactly. Yeah. And then, it makes it really hard to know, like, if I trusted myself back then and I got it wrong, what happens if I trust
Mhm.
myself now and I get it wrong again? And so that now we're in this like, okay, I don't have a lot of self-trust. I don't have a lot of this, but also my nervous system has learned that like in depending on the way that the relationship is harmful, right?
Right.
The calm before the storm, so to speak, or here's a person who's doing a repair after, or, whatever their
Mhm.
version of a repair is after a harmful event. And so, like, what does this mean? Is this like creating a false sense of safety and we're just going to go right back to it? Like, it's all of these things that our nervous system is trying to like keep up and like keep tabs and be like, okay, well, this matches that thing and this matches that thing over there. And
Mhm.
so we just keep falling in that same, oh, okay, well, if that matched that, then am I not safe like I wasn't safe then?
That gets into the whole, can I trust my intuition, my gut? People feeling like they pick wrong and they
Exactly. And I think we also have a really disconnected society. And so, like a lot of times romantic relationships are placed on like a very specific high pedestal. Parent, like caregiver and
Mhm.
child relationships are also, right? So like caregivers are societally conformed to say like, okay, like they love you no matter what. So anything they do is coming from a place of love and from what they want. That's best for you. And so like you start trying to create a pattern that is like, okay, well, this is, I guess, what love is then. And this is what somebody who wants my best interest treats me like this, I guess. Right.
And
And so
that's
that's a
so
particular type of,
hurtful, and it keeps that generational trauma going.
it was really hard. Like I was telling you right before we started recording, like I was adopted and I was adopted by a woman who has a lot of her own issues and then married a really emotionally abusive person. And my mother was her own level of emotionally abusive as well, but like
Mm.
it ended up being this like pattern, right? But everyone's like, well, not only do your parents love you no matter what because they're your parents, but also you were adopted, so you were chosen. You're extra
So you
loved.
should just like take it, bend over and take it.
Or like also like being a social worker now and like knowing a little bit more how the foster I wasn't chosen. Like it wasn't like she went into like I got my cat from a shelter that has a kitten room. So you walk in and there's 20 kittens in the room. I chose my cat. Like I spent
You
some time in
did.
there. I picked up different cats. I like, I checked them out a little bit. And then I chose the one that came home with me who's like clawing at the door. But like that's not how this worked, right? And so especially not
Mhm.
my actual adoption specifically, right? Like there was
But
not a
that
choice happening.
false narrative, I
Yes.
mean, to build your idea of love and trust around a false narrative like that can be so harmful. As a social worker, as a person who's been through it, how do you like pick that apart? Where do you start?
Years of therapy. But I think the main
Good.
thing,
Therapy's awesome. I got a
oh, therapy
therapist.
is, oh, I love my therapist. My therapist is wonderful. I'm actually meeting with her right after we finish recording. It's going to be great.
Awesome.
It took, so I had one therapist who I met with from the time that I was in middle school to the time that I was in grad school. We were only down to like once a month by the time I was in grad school, but like it really took someone who had witnessed, like she had met
Mm,
my mother. She had seen some of these patterns. She had seen a lot of this stuff and her really sitting down with me and going like, hey, like, we can keep going like this, but I keep seeing it hurt you. Like, and it also took like
so she
distance. It took,
validated what
oh, a
you
lot of
were going
validation.
through.
Yep. And then also
Okay.
like it took literal actual distance, right? It took, I don't live in my mother's house anymore. Yep. And like what sucks is that that's not super possible. So then during that whole time, as I'm like growing up and like she exerted a lot of financial control over me for a long time, even into my adulthood. I still found it hard to build new relationships there because I was still connected over here to this trauma cycle and network. And so, like, it was really hard for me to show up fully and authentically over here, even with people who might have wanted to at the time, because I was still in over here. And so I
Right.
think, and I don't know if people are listening to this, not like watching it, but I'm motioning
Both,
different sides,
both,
right?
both.
Right. And so I think like one of the things that helped me actually get past it was like literally creating distance from those past relationships so that I
Mm,
had enough space within me to build new ones. Cause I also think that like healing from this stuff isn't stuff that you can do alone. This has to be community care. It can't be self care. Right. And
mhm.
so we need to start with actually finding people that you can trust. And that is hard. Right. And so that's going to be people who can say, like, hey, I can see that you're reacting to your mother right now, but I want to remind you that she's not in the room. I am.
That's important, but I mean, when you're in the eye of the storm, you can't see things, right? I mean, you literally don't have any other perspective. So you can't see from the inside out. So having that therapist, having that friend, the healer, whoever it is in your life, be able to give you that perspective is so valuable.
Yeah.
And it sounds like distance is what it created for you. But how do you then be able to start to even like share? Because you just said the person said, I'm not your mom. She's not the one in the room.
Yeah.
But that means that person has to have all that background knowledge about you. And that takes a lot of trust to share that.
It does. I think this is where my like ADHD and extroversion comes in and helped me out personally.
Good.
And the fact that
ADHD
like,
can be a positive.
oh hell yeah, that
Mhm.
like lack of impulse control, it's like, yeah, and here's like everything about my life story. I'm not contextualizing why like that isn't something to share as we talk about like in the middle of a party. But I think like I also so I've been in therapy since I was 3 because adopted kids, they shuffle they shuffle us off pretty early.
Actually, I didn't realize that. You just automatically get
It's not like
assigned a therapist.
automatic, but I think everyone is a little bit more checking. Is this one good? Does that make sense? Like, are you gonna
Okay.
need therapy? And so like I was actually just read some like notes from my teachers from second grade. Like I found an old box when we were moving. And it was so interesting because I went to a Quaker school for first and second
Oh
grade.
my goodness, what an interesting background.
It's been a life, but like, so they wrote it in a really interesting way, right? Because they're trying to like be strengths based and it's very like community. It was really interesting. But even then, by that point, like I'm in therapy. I've been in therapy for a while. Like I am working on anger issues at that point, which they are relating as a trauma symptom, right? Now, my ADHD has not been found by this point. Yeah, and neither has my autism, and there's a whole bunch of things going on, and of course, like, there's racial stuff behind there too, but
About to say, there's also
oh, yeah, but at the end of the day, right, like, I think my mother had a very anxious kind
attachment.
of, yeah, disposition, and I have always been kind of, like, firm in my shit, like, just, "Hey, here I am, let's do the thing," but that also meant that sometimes I would be like, "No, I don't wanna do that fucking thing,"
Oh, and
and
they
all of the,
misread
like,
that as like defiant.
yeah, or, like, even just, like, we called them tornadoes, but they were meltdowns. Like, I'd have, like,
Okay.
these big, like, throw myself on the ground, all this stuff. And, was that trauma? Was that autism? Was that ADHD? Like, who knows, right? Like, but I
Yes,
was,
all above.
yeah, all the above is probably
Mhm.
my guess as well. But I had, like, really, really big emotions, and my mother had a really hard time with that. So I've been in therapy since I was really, really young,
Mm.
and I think part of it was just I always knew that I could go into therapy and I could talk about the thing. And I make a joke sometimes that I was
Wonderful
partially
to
raised by
have that.
therapists. Yeah, and so I think for me, that always made it a little easier for me to share these parts because I was like,
Mhm.
I have always had a person, it wasn't ever my mother, but I've always had a person who I could go to and talk to about, like, the hardest moments of my life and not get judged and have that safety. And so
That
I've
is
always
awesome.
been kind of that open book, and I think it's kinda related to that in a way that I know that other
Mm.
people don't have that experience, and so I think, like,
You have
more
more trust
so.
in the world because you always had a person.
Exactly, exactly. And,
Yeah.
like, of course, I wanted it to be my mother, but it wouldn't be, and so, like, I think in that, okay, how do you open up to other people? It's I built that skill from having that
Therapy.
reliable, safe space here that I then could find ways to generalize, right? Like, who
Right.
are the people who I am most feel like I do when I'm in therapy with them? And then those are the people I talk to.
And so it's
A
easier for
model.
us as humans to be able to do something when we have a frame of reference in your nervous system, thankfully, was given a lot of messages of safety.
Exactly.
So within your practice, is this where you like specialize?
So I don't specialize in adoption, interestingly enough.
Oh,
I
interesting.
am DBT trained, so I do work a lot with kind of
Oh,
attachment trauma, you know?
explain to our viewers who aren't therapists and don't know the lingo.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. DBT is Dialectical Behavior Therapy. It is a behaviorist model, so it's got its issues, but it was essentially created to work with suicidal women. Since it's been found to be really helpful, it's a skills-based therapy, so it's a whole bunch of, like, worksheets and handouts and, like, here is an acronym for this thing. So, like, Dear Man is one of them. It's a communication skill, right? And so it's describe the facts of your experience, express your emotions about the experience and your opinions about it, assert, ask for what you need, and then reinforce. So, like, what does the other person get, basically? Why should they acquiesce to you, right? So,
Mhm.
like, a lot of times working with, like, teenagers, for example, it'll be like, I'll be a lot easier to live with, or, like, I think it'll strengthen our relationship because that's what parents want, actually. And then the man is like, remain mindful, appear confident. That one gets a little ableist sometimes, and negotiate, right? And so, like, it's these actual hard skills that you can put into place to start building foundations. And I found that really helpful as a client, and I find it really helpful as a therapist.
All the research around DBT and everything I've heard is just wonderful. It is
It's
so
a really
helpful.
powerful base, right? Like, it
Mhm.
so, like, technically there's a phase 2 that does do some, like, emotional experiencing. I usually find that, like, weaving in some parts work and ego state therapy could be helpful, a little bit more helpful than DBT's own. And you do wanna be mindful that you don't turn to, like, only skills and not the emotional side. Like,
Right.
that is part of DBT, but sometimes it's overlooked by people who are trying really, really hard to just be, like, in complete
Mhm.
control of their actions. So there's in DBT, would call that a dialectic, a both and, right, happening.
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah, so it's really a modality that was built to help folks who have really unstable relationships and who have really big struggles with, like, really intense emotions wherever those things come from. And so I find that, like, that can be a helpful opening point, is like
Mhm.
a person who's coming in and is like, I can't ever feel safe in relationships. I get this close and then they explode. That, like, DBT would ask what's behind that, right? So what are the chains of events that lead to these feelings? And then
Mhm.
like let's understand that instead of like judging yourself for like, oh my God, I'm so awful at relationships, or like all of that kind of judging and blaming that can happen too.
Right. Right. How would a person, like, what are some of the signs or things that would stick out to a person to let them know that what they're experiencing is because of all this, is something they need to talk to someone about? What would like, because
Yeah.
sometimes I'll talk to people and they're like, oh, it's not bad enough. And it's like, oh my God, stop saying not bad enough.
Yeah. My favorite response to that question is like, what would be bad enough? Like, what's
Yes,
the actual logical end of that? Is like, oh, it'll be bad enough when I'm in the hospital.
right.
That's when
But
it will be
bad
bad enough.
enough
Cause
is
like,
when I'm like bleeding and can barely breathe. Like, that's what we want to wait for?
right. That's okay. And I think that
Mm.
there's like a really big societal piece to that like
Oh,
that
yes.
mindset, right? Like even if you think about it, like police don't prevent crimes. Like if you call them and say like, hey, this person is planning to do this crime, they like won't do anything unless something has already happened, right? It has to
Right.
get bad enough. And so like that is actually just the type of system that we've built in our world. And so I think like rather than trying to say like, oh, here's like the one thing you should be waiting for, because then they're going to go, well, that one podcast said that that was what I'm looking for. So like because I don't have that particular thing, especially I work with a lot with other autistic folks, and like that kind of concrete thinking will
No,
actually hold a
I
lot of us.
appreciate you saying that and bringing that up. Just because we didn't mention it doesn't mean it's not.
Right. One of the,
Oh,
yeah.
exactly. Because we can't cover everything.
I think a lot of times it's like what I found was that I was every day feeling completely isolated, alone. Like that no one could understand where I was coming from, that
Mm.
like even when people tried, they would like miss it in like small ways. Like I would blow those small ways up, right, of missing it. And so like I think that if that is something that you're feeling consistently, right? If you're feeling like you're having to like perform relationship, that might be some kind of a sign that your nervous system is like not sitting. And that's not to say that your relationship is healthy or unhealthy,
Your reaction isn't where you want.
aligned. Yeah,
Yeah.
right? Like that's uncomfortable, that's a lot of pressure and like energy that you're having to expend there that isn't, I think, what we would usually expect to look for in, or really want to look for in, like a life worth living, which is what DBT like is all about, right? How to build your life worth living. And so
Oh, I like
like,
that. Life worth living.
isn't
That's
that nice? Yeah.
important, though. That's a good way to reframe and ask yourself those questions.
Right.
Not
And
the
that's not to say that like
storm
if your
or
life
the
isn't there,
sun,
right, that
but
it's not worth living, but just like, yeah, like, is this the life that I want? How sustainable is this for me? Right. If I'm showing up in
mhm.
every relationship feeling like I have to like be the entertainer or like da 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 da, then like, how long can I do that till it burns me out? And what am I going to do when I get there?
And why are you doing this to yourself?
Yeah. Like when it starts feeling scary, that's the thing
Mhm.
that starts turning on for a lot of people is the like, what do I need to do to keep this relationship?
Okay.
If that's a thought happening over and over and over, right? Like something is happening there, whether it is a relationship that's not a good fit for whatever reason, or whether that is like your internal stuff that is coming up and trying to like demand attention, even though it's like, hey, this isn't that same thing. This isn't
Right.
unsafe. Like it's feeling, okay, I
Well,
need to like realign.
sometimes that can happen because you feel safe. Your nervous system keeps getting the message that you're in this safe relationship. And so your brain and body's like, oh, okay, so we can start to work on this crap. And it comes up.
Exactly. I also think like with that, when you feel safe, it's kind of, I don't know if you've ever experienced burnout.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
worked for Chicago Public Schools back in the day.
Got you. So you're there. So
Mhm.
one of my most profound like experience of burnout was I knew it. Everyone kept being like, you're going to burn yourself out. I was like, I'm probably already in burnout, but if I stop now, then it's going to get worse because of like all
How do I
these
restart?
contextual things. Not even how do I restart, just like I know that it's going to catch up to me in such a way.
Oh, okay.
And I'm the only person working at this particular space right now. So
Oh,
it
God.
can't flatten me or we'll be fucked. I was
God,
like,
that is
okay.
so heavy to have on your shoulders.
Yeah. And so I was like, I'm gonna barrel through until like we get somebody else. And then I know that it's gonna flatten me. But that the actual flattening was so much more intense. And like I don't get sick super often. I got sick. I like couldn't get out of bed. Like I was like,
Your
and so it's
body
that
was
kind of
like,
thing where it's like the
we're done.
adrenaline keeps you going. And then when you stop,
Mm.
it's like all your whole body falls apart.
Yep.
And I think that that same thing happens in relationships, right? Where it's like adrenaline keeps you going through these high impact, like
Mm.
hurtful, harmful relationships. And then you stop and you're in this peaceful mode and your body's like, what the fuck is this? Are we okay? Like, oh my God, just falling apart from the like, I've been running on adrenaline for years. Or your body's like, do we need to be producing adrenaline? What's happening? Are we sure? Are we okay? Like the last time that someone did that to us, we needed a lot of adrenaline to make it through. And you
Mhm.
get this kind of like revved feeling and it's like,
Yep.
oh, this is my nervous system trying to be in the same state it was in, even
Yep.
though I'm in a different position now.
But it doesn't, it hasn't learned that this is safe. And sometimes it's like it doesn't know how to switch off anymore. I love that analogy. That's so important to like recognize that you may be going through these things, feeling these things, and it doesn't have to be a commentary on the relationship.
Yeah, I think we do a lot in our society of like, oh, this and this means that this is a bad relationship. This and this means that this is a bad person. Like, I
Very
think that
black
there's a
and
lot
white.
less of that, but I think that the way that our society is set up right now, we don't have good reasons to end relationships unless someone is being toxic. We don't give ourselves the out of two people just not meshing well. And so we
Mm.
either stay in things way longer than we need to prove that we're not the bad one, or we when we do break off a friendship, a romantic relationship, a whatever, even like at work sometimes, right? When we do
Yeah.
finally leave, we leave with such resentment and such frustration and it's like they were toxic and they're awful and they're bad and it's like I won't say if they are or not. I don't know that person, but what I can say is that like why are we staying in these situations until it feels like that?
Right. Why didn't we give us ourselves the permission to say, hey, this just isn't working? It's like how dating isn't so much of a thing anymore. It's just
Mhm.
like one relationship to the next. It doesn't have to be committed. You can just say, hey, I'm dating people, right?
Yeah.
And then try people out to see what works or doesn't work. But that concept, it just doesn't seem like it's a thing, or it's
Yeah.
not comfortable, or we can't
I
reject people, or if we're seeing one person, we can only see one person. But
I
it's
think
like,
it's a lot of that. Like, I think it's actually a lot of like monoculture, right? So, like, instead of
oh,
poly, like this idea of like, oh, like if you're not exclusive, then you're not actually doing anything. And like everything needs to be this like high stakes, whatever. At the same time, there's so many people being like, oh, but I'm chill. Oh no, I'm okay. I'm chill. I don't care about that. No, no, no. It's okay. But then it's like, but they actually are putting a lot into that one thing
mhm,
instead of themselves
mhm.
going out and looking around. Yeah, it feels very much to me as someone who is like actively dating, like very like almost a chess game. And I've never understood chess. I can't figure out how all the pieces move. I can't keep it in my head well. And so that's kind of how it feels to me all the time is
Same.
like, okay, did we have a conversation that meant that we were seeing people or weren't seeing people? And if we had the conversation, why did we have it? We've only been out twice. Like, I don't even know your last
Right.
name.
Why are we having this conversation so soon? Why
Yeah.
is that necessary?
I
Why
think
can't
it
you
gives
just
people a
wait?
sense of safety. Like, I think that they think that if
Oh,
we're
interesting.
monogamous, if we're locked down, if we're not dating around, but if we're dating each other, then I'm safe. It won't end, right?
Mm.
Because then, okay, well, if we break up, something has to happen. It has to get bad enough, right? Like
Oh,
all of these
okay.
things play back into each other of like, once you're in this type of relationship, it's harder to get out of. Someone has to do something wrong.
And there's no conversation about, am I happy? Am I fulfilled? Are we a good match for each other?
Exactly.
It's
And
like
so, but
you
dating
miss that
offers you that.
piece.
It says, hey, try all these different people and see which one makes you happiest. See which five make you happiest. Like,
Right.
have this experience where you're actually going in and like trying to find something that works well for you and the other person at the same time rather than anyone, so I'm not alone.
Right. And it's okay to be alone and be happy. And just because you have somebody there doesn't mean you're happy. It's like this whole like fast forward culture
Yeah,
that I don't see it ending super well.
I don't either. I think it
Mm.
is probably actually a lot of why, again, like you get out
Mhm.
of a really hard relationship that started too fast, too soon, that like did
Yeah.
all these big things, and then you have to go back and start trying again,
Mm,
and you're doing the same pattern again because you don't
yep.
notice that that's actually the issue, right? Is like you're hopping into things really quickly.
And you're not getting time to know them, know yourself, learn what you like or don't like, learn how to create boundaries and all that good stuff. So, what
Yeah.
got you interested in this field, especially with
So
DBT? I mean, DBT is hard stuff.
so I wanted to be a teacher when I was in high school. I like middle school, high school. I wanted
Oh,
to be a teacher. I wanted to be a teacher of high schoolers, even though I couldn't stand my peers. So I have no idea where that came from. But I like talking about stuff and I like questions and I like
mm,
other people learning and I like learning. And so like it felt good to me. I was definitely that like stereotypical kid who had was a little bit closer friends with my teachers than I was my peers. Especially like I lived in Wisconsin with my uncle for a little while in high school.
mhm,
And especially up there, like I just really couldn't get a grip on like the kids there. But my English teacher, all of them actually were like wonderful. And so but then I took a psychology class in that same high school and was realizing more and more that like teaching was going to probably be something that like didn't quite fit all the things for me.
mhm,
But I loved thinking about how and why we do the things we do, right? Like I said, I'd been in therapy forever. I could never imagine myself doing like one-on-one weekly therapy. I'd even told my therapist at one point when I was like applying for colleges, I was like, I could never do what you do. I hate the idea of sitting across from someone like me talking about the shit that I talk about. That sounds brutal to me. I'm so grateful for you. I could never do it.
and
Lo and
yet,
behold, that is primarily what my job is now.
where was the switch?
So I did undergrad in psych,
Mhm.
and then I worked at a paint it yourself pottery shop. I love pottery. I've always loved pottery. I've done it for a lot of years. And I
Oh.
was like, "Oh, I could do like art therapy." But
Mhm.
I had already started applying to grad schools and I knew I wanted to do social work. And so I was like, "Okay, well, I can do social work like at a school that does maybe some art therapy stuff." So actually my second internship in grad school was at the Art Therapy Institute in North Carolina that shut down over COVID.
Oh,
Yeah, so it was really really
oh, that's
cool.
so sad.
Yeah, or it was very, very sad. It was such a good resource to the community. But
Art therapy is so important. It should just be like a normalized thing every school has.
I really agree. I think it's hard for art not to be therapeutic in a way. So I think that like,
I
yeah,
agree.
there's things there. But yeah, so I like was doing that and I was like, okay, like still one-on-one therapy seems like a lot to me. And so when I started job hunt, oh, and you can't like I can't do art therapy. Like I'm not an art therapist because I don't have a
Mhm.
master's in art therapy, right? That's a whole different licensure track.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, as a social worker, I do have lots of doors open to me. I found IOP,
Okay.
which is intensive outpatient programming for teens. So these were teens who were dealing with self-injurious behaviors, self-harm, suicidality, behavioral quote unquote issues, whatever. Often they were coming back from the hospital or trying to avoid going to the hospital, things like that. Oh, my heart soared every day. I loved that work.
Uh,
It was group work. So it was
mm,
3 hours of group, 3 to 5 days a week, and then individual and family therapy for each of the kiddos. And I thought that that wraparound type of service was great. It was actually the service I really needed to be in as a teenager and just didn't
mm,
know existed. And I had been a client in DBT in undergrad. So I'd gone through a course of DBT as a client. And so I started then studying it when I was still in undergrad and then through grad school. And I took a class with a wonderful professor, Marilyn Gezzi, at UNC on DBT as well as on group work. And I was like, this is where my heart is, group therapy. There's like a teaching aspect, but there's also all the good therapy stuff and like
mhm.
great. And I really loved that work, but IOP work is pretty political. There's a lot of like admin like, because you have to be working with a big team of people, right? And you have to be like, okay, well, whose title is this and who makes this choice? And okay, but have you ever seen how the group works? Why are you making that choice? Can you listen to this? Where are the right
Oh, okay. So
paths?
you are doing the actual like work day to day, but because it's outpatient, there's this team of people making decisions.
Or really it was like someone owns the practice and someone's the clinical director and someone's the program manager and then like you're like the
Oh,
therapist doing the work and ideally those are very collaborative roles, and I was just having a hard time finding a place where like my particular personality fit well, right?
Mhm.
And
Well, but good
so
for you to go, I need something that fits me, and not putting yourself down, saying I
yeah,
need to fit them.
and I think like yeah, I've got a big personality. I've always been told that. I'm very extroverted, and I'm black, and I'm fat, and like I'm a woman, and so like those things come with their own preconceived notions when you walk into certain rooms. And so I had 4 jobs within the first 2 years of after grad school. One year
Was
I did
that by
3 W-2s.
choice?
Gross. I mean, I left each one of them by choice. Yeah, yeah. I
Good.
wasn't
Good
fired.
for
Yeah.
you.
And now I've landed in my forever job. But yeah, so the progression kind of worked where like I was working in these groups, and then I had some families, and then I had some kids
Mhm.
from IOP one-on-one. Partially because IOP allows you, like working in a group setting allows you to build that rapport really quickly,
Yes.
right? Like
The
kids come in on their
trust
first day
and
and they're
Mhm.
already watching how you engage with the other kids. So they're watching and learning, is this person safe for me? Well, they're safe for that person and they're safe for that. Well, I don't know those people. So they kind of sit closed off for like the first day. And,
Mhm.
you kind of like rib them a little, but you don't like, I'm not going to get in your space, but I am just going to like, "Meh, meh," and be myself. And then the second day they might like open up a little bit more because they're seeing parts of things or they're getting engaged, interested. You catch like the glimmer in their eye and you kind of go off on that track for a little bit just to
Mhm.
kind of pull them in.
That's where the art is within therapy. It's the
Yes,
science, but there's also that art piece of being able to catch those moments.
exactly. And so, then by the time you're an individual, you've already got a little bit of rapport built there, right?
Mhm.
The intake for IOP is 2 hours anyway. So even if you just do the intake, that's already 2 hours you get with somebody to start kind of building this. So that kind of built my confidence a little bit in that individual space. And
So
then
you didn't want to do individual because of confidence?
I think so. I think it was like not like that I didn't think I could do it well. I think it wasn't a part of my brain I had scratched before.
Ah, okay. And you had this narrative now that you told yourself that you would never want to do it.
Exactly. And so, I keep being proved wrong on that, by the way. Like, I also had a thing of like, I'm never going to do all virtual work. And I just recently cut my second in person day down to just one. So I've only got one in person day now. At one point I was like, I'm never going to work with adults. I was like, I have so much patience and understanding of like teens and kids, and
Mhm.
I'm so frustrated. Like I have a hard time with adults because like they can solve their own problems, quote unquote. No, of course not. That's ridiculous. But that was really my headspace
Mhm.
because I had so much of my own struggles with my parents who wouldn't solve any of my family's problems, right? And so yeah, it was just kind of like every single time I'd be like, I don't ever want to work with that. It'd be like, knock, knock.
Oh, I know. I said I would never leave schools. I'd never work with parents. I would
Never
never
say
own my
never.
own business. There's no
Got
way in
one.
hell I would have my own podcast. Oh my God, I have a speech impediment.
Yeah. No, literally, actually, my
Mhm.
my boss and good friend Patrick Hassel and I were just talking the other day because I
Oh, I
started a
love
business.
Patrick. Tell him
He's
hi for
wonderful.
me.
I certainly will. He's so badass. But we were talking the other day because I just started my own business a couple months ago, and he was
Crap.
like, "Hey, man, you did it!" And I was like, "Listen," because I was also like, "I'm not. I don't want to do that. I have no interest in like the taxes and like."
Mhm.
I told Patrick he can pry me out of resilient mind with his cold dead hands. His cold dead hands. He will over his own dead body get me out of this practice.
I love that.
But I think it was just a lot of like, yeah, not necessarily like unconfidence that I couldn't do it, but just like I couldn't.
The narrative. Yeah.
And so I was just like, I have no clue what that would even begin to look like. And so it took being able to do it with teens that I already saw in IOP. So, I could translate some of that over.
Mhm.
And then I started seeing more and more teens who weren't in IOP. And then like it kind of snowballed from there. I just kept seeing how DBT, like it saved my life. And when applied well, when done with that
Mhm.
firm basis that like, so the DBT assumptions, the very first things that you look at in the book are that all people are doing the best that they can. All people want to live good lives. They want to be happy. And all people need to do better, try harder, be more motivated for change. And that's our first dialectic, right? Is made up of those three things. And then there's more assumptions after that,
But
but
just getting a person to say, hey,
start there.
this person is trying the best they can, and that's the way you need to approach it. That alone.
It's such a
Like,
frame
whew,
shift. And I think a lot of people think that we believe that. Like, I think a lot of people walk through the world thinking that that is how they approach things. But it might shock you
really
how many
not.
times that I teach that very first thing and people go, "Are you sure?"
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the best part is that like the DBT assumptions, they say right there, they're assumptions. They're things that can't prove and that we're just going to agree to abide by anyway. There's some radical acceptance there. So usually if it, I have found DBT can absolutely, like any therapy modality, be really harmful if not used effectively and for the people for whom it works
Absolutely.
well, right?
Right.
Like I don't love it. It's not my favorite. I can't. Brains are different. We all need something different. And it's what I really like about the therapy world is like one of my coworkers and I will joke sometimes that like all the modalities are the same thing with different words. Like
Yes.
they kind of are, right? Like if you don't like
And
the DBT words
EMDR
for
is
it, there are
a
EMDR.
certain language, and DBT is a certain language. And that's
Exactly.
why it's important to switch things up. If you're with a
Exactly.
therapist and it's not a good fit, totally fine to say goodbye. I tell people that
Exactly.
all the time. It's
Yeah.
not personal to me what's best for you.
And I think like that's kind of the nice part, right? Is like a lot of the resourcing in like I was like sitting there learning EMDR and the resourcing, I was like, oh, this is all like distress tolerance and
It
mindfulness from
is.
DBT. Okay, cool. Like that
Absolutely.
makes total sense to me. I can talk that.
EMDR does pull from CBT, from DBT. Absolutely.
Yeah. And they all do, right? So they all kind of
Mhm.
do this. And a lot of that is just because a lot of them are pulling from indigenous ways of knowing and rebranding them as something they can make thousands of dollars off of. So like
If I knew how to brand things, I tell you. Hmm.
to make thousands of dollars off of them. Yeah. I think like a lot of it ends up being yeah, just the way that my brain happens to work. I like
Mhm.
something that I can go and say like, okay, am I using this skill right now? Do I want to use this skill right now? Might this skill help me to not hurt my relationship with this person that I love or the relationship with myself? Might this skill be really hard for me to do right now, but really worth it? Might this skill be really hard and not worth it? Like, it just helps me feel a little bit more like I can like make choices for myself because I have like a menu, right? Like a tangible things.
Not that though, because it provides the space and time also to check
Exactly.
in with yourself, to force yourself to think about these things that you wouldn't regularly.
I don't have even all of the skills manual. My old supervisor has them down to the page number. Like she can be like this page and I'm like, you are uncanny.
Wow.
I have
My
concerns.
brain doesn't work that way.
No, me neither. But I do have most of the acronyms. Like a lot of them I've got down just because I teach them so much.
For that repetition, it sticks.
Exactly. And like repeating it and then having folks question. Again,
Mm.
that's the part of teaching that I loved. And so like that was a part of IOP that I got to do a lot was to like, yeah, like tell me what you disagree with about this. Let's
Oh
talk
yeah,
about it.
in therapy, I'm always telling clients, please, the back
Yeah.
and forth is where we make that
Is
progress,
the actual
right?
work. It's
Mhm.
the and doing that in that safe place, right?
Yes.
Teaches, oh, yeah, I can do that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, this has been such a fun, interesting conversation. What
Yeah.
is one thing, two things, three things that you want people to kind of pull from this? And I know it's not the only thing. So, guys, listen through it. There's lots of good info. And this is not your own personal therapy session. So, if you need that, seek that out. But what a couple of things you would like somebody to be able to walk away with?
I think those first three DBT assumptions are a really important thing. Like if you can align to that, it can really reduce suffering, like your own suffering a lot, right? If you can look at someone and go, that person who just hurt me is doing the best that they can. I don't want to be near that best. I would like to be away from that. And they need to be doing better, like for sure, right? And
Mhm.
that doesn't change that it's the best that they can. I think that really releases a lot of the like, they did that to me because they hate me. They did that to
Mm.
me because they're bad and the world is unsafe. Like a lot of those kind of like thought patterns that end up causing more suffering as opposed to being effective, right? Or even like accurate, right? Like that there are actually systems in this world that are out to get us. For sure,
Mhm. Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like I said,
Yeah.
I'm a fat black neurodivergent disabled woman, queer woman.
Man.
Yeah, like the
I'm,
the things are there, right? Like it's not paranoia if they are out to get you.
oh, no, it's
And
not paranoia.
right. And like the individual person across from you in the grocery store is unlikely to be that system incarnate.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, I do. And that's so valid. And that's important to keep.
So I think that, and I think like when it comes to like just because something feels scary doesn't necessarily mean that it is. So like if you can build enough space that you can go in and check with yourself, go in and check with your community, right? The people who love you and who want you to be safe and well, with therapists, with if you have a lot of people and you can kind of like crowdsource the like, hey y'all, is this actually unsafe or is this like
Right.
my own bullshit? That like that's actually really helpful, right? And that there's nothing wrong with
Absolutely.
like needing that kind of reassurance. And that like if you do need that kind of reassurance and you're thinking to yourself right now, going, man, my friends would never, maybe get some new friends. Like not,
Ooh, good for
like I said,
you.
Quaker, like, I'm not currently a Quaker, but like make new friends, keep the old one silver, the other's gold. Like we can, it's all
Love
right.
Girl Scouts. Yep.
We can do the thing, but like
Yep.
definitely you need people in your corner who can offer you that.
Yes. And thank you for saying that because not everybody would go there. And it's important to go there because are you enjoying life? Are you enjoying your friends?
And are you able to like seek reassurance and support from them? Right?
If the
Even when your
answer is
body is
no,
like,
there's something wrong.
everybody in the world hates me. So my partner and I moved in together a couple years ago, and the very first morning that we like woke up in the same house, I'm like getting ready in the morning and they like come in my room and they go, hey, like I'm just grabbing this thing and I was like, hey, really quickly, do you hate me? And they were like, huh? And I was like, I don't know. I can't figure out if it was a dream or real life, but I thought you hated me. And they were like, no, that was a dream. I don't hate you. I love you. Have a good day at work. Bye. And it was like, okay, cool. That's just all I needed. Like I could absolutely believe them in that. I feel much safer and more confident now, but I needed to be able to ask the question and not get like, well, why in the hell would I hate you? And like get this big angry
Right.
response to just seeking reassurance, right? So like that's what I need in relationships. So I think that kind of work is important. What do you need in the relationship? And then go find that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sabrina, thank you so much. This has been lovely. I really appreciate this. Thank you for taking time out because
Sure.
as a fellow therapist, it's not easy taking time out of our schedule. So I do
Oh,
appreciate it.
yeah.
And thank you to my listeners and followers at home. This has been Notes to My Nervous System. I hope you've gotten something from this. If nothing else, take a deep breath and recognize you're doing the best you can. It was an awesome conversation. That's a wrap for today's episode. Thank you to Sabrina again for bringing her powerful insights and compassionate presence to Notes to Our Nervous System. If this resonated with you or you want to learn more about cultivating a safe, affirming space, please be sure to check in with Sabrina and check out all her resources and check out her fellow podcasts. It's awesome. And please remember, you deserve to feel celebrated, understood, and empowered just as you are.